the war, I enlisted in March of '44. And D-Day was June the 6th, '44, the invasion. And D-Day is the very day I went active. They didn't take me because I was a senior in high school, and I was only 17. So they didn't take me out of school. But I was I graduated on June the 4th and June the 6th. I was gone.
You didn't skip a beat.
No.
You just...
No.
Wow.
And I was in for 3 years. Spent 1 year in Europe.
So you came back like 40, 48?
47.
Oh, 47.
Yeah.
Did you work those 2 years before you started at Odell, or were you looking for place? That's when you went back.
That's when I went to school.
That's when you went back.
When I went to school, Georgia Tech.
You did that quick. 2 years.
Well, I enlisted in the aviation cadet program. I wanted to be a pilot. I was a pilot when I was 16 years old. I had a pilot license. Worked 3 days a week in the afternoon, all day Saturday. Made enough money to take flying lessons.
Where did you learn to fly? At the local airport or the...
In Concord, the airport.
Oh, wow. They still teach people to fly out there, don't they? I think they still do something.
They probably do. They probably do. But I have been around in a long time, so I don't know.
Wow, that's something that you knew what you wanted to do like that.
But I didn't get through the cadet program because of war. After Germany surrendered in '45 or '46, I can't remember. But anyway, they made me a chemical technician. And I was the caretaker of 15,000 toxic gas bombs in France.
And that's when you were in Europe for that year?
Yeah.
What did that involve you doing?
The bombs were on next to the runway on this little airport. My job was to check the pressure in the bombs so that it didn't get too great and they might explode.
How often did you have to check it?
Well, it was a constant job because
I
never checked all of them, at one time. But I'd check periodically here and there just to see what the pressure was and make sure. In some of the casings, especially on the mustard gas bombs, were deteriorating, and some of them were leaking, and you had to be careful with those so you didn't get it on you, because one drop would make a blister like that. And we finally took them to the Mediterranean, and they took them out and dumped them in the Mediterranean. Poor fish.
Wow. So when they didn't need them anymore, they just took them and got rid of them?
Yeah, got rid of them.
Wow. Well, I guess back to this stuff.
Okay.
So after you got out of Georgia Tech, you applied for jobs close to home, and that's how you landed it up. Did you have that kind of style, architecture in mind as what you wanted to do, or you just wanted to get a job?
Well, primarily I just wanted to get a job. That was the number one goal, get a job. But I was glad that I wound up getting a job there because we were probably the most progressive firm I know in Charlotte, probably in the Southeast. Mr. Odell went to first of all, his family were Duke people, and all of his brothers had gone to Duke. His father wanted him to go to Duke. He wanted to be an architect. He told me one time that when he was a kid, the only thing he ever wanted to be was an architect. For some reason, he had it in his brain as a young child. So he became an architect, and he went to Paris and did graduate work in the École des Beaux-Arts school over there, and came back and worked in New York for Harrison and Abramovitz, an architectural firm. He designed the what do you call it? In the New York World's Fair, the thing, the thing that's the focus.
Yeah.
He designed that with Harrison and Abramovitz. Mm-hmm. Then he came to Charlotte.
What was the firm like when you got there, when you first started?
I was the 6th employee in the drafting area. It was him, his secretary, in the drafting area. And I was number 6. And we grew to 186. So we had something going for us.
How soon after you started working there did that Coliseum, the Charlotte Coliseum, come into place for a project that you were working on? Was it?
It was in 52, I believe, 52 or 53, that it came to be.
Do you think that design had a big impact on why, when this college was starting up, they came to Odell? Or how do you think that worked out?
Well, we had done a lot of schoolwork. In our early years, schoolwork, primary and secondary schools, was our bread and butter. Because the guys coming back from the war had babies, or their wives had babies. And schools needed to grow, did grow. His father, actually his grandfather, who had been a state senator, who was on the school board in Concord, and who was a very influential person in Cabarrus County, was instrumental in getting us Cabarrus County and Concord schoolwork. So that was our bread and butter for a long time. And then we spread out and we got to doing Mecklenburg schoolwork, Charlotte schoolwork. Now Charlotte and Mecklenburg are combined, but they were not in the beginning. And Bonnie Cohn was an educator. And she had the dream of Charlotte College and ultimately the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. So she was familiar with some of our schoolwork, including Garinger. Elmer Garinger, you probably don't know him.
The superintendent.
Yeah, the superintendent. Yeah, Garinger was named after him. And actually, after Garinger was constructed, he retired from schools. But it was named after him. So we were pretty good at schoolwork. We got to where we could make them look good.
Would you crank them out? Would you get them done fast? Was it a...
Oh, well, yeah, you did do them fast, but every school had a different program, so there's no such thing as doing a repeat. The sites that you built them on, number one, most times would not allow you to put the schools you did over there on this site because it was a different site. And you had to build it to suit the site. That was a number one issue. But anyway, we got in with Miss Bonnie, and she was instrumental in getting us hired as architects for Charlotte College.
What was it like working with Bonnie Cohn?
She was a very, very dedicated lady. She recognized restraints. She'd lecture us sometimes on budget because she knew, in particular, Mr. Odell liked to do good design. And she was very insistent that we fall within the budget. And we did. But sometimes it wasn't easy.
You didn't go over budget on it at all?
No, I don't think we ever went over budget. But she was a good lady to work for. She was so dedicated, she knew what she wanted to do. She had a plan in her mind that had been there probably 20 years, 30 years. And it was coming to fruition. So she was happy.
What was the back and forth with her like on the bit? Would she take plans to her board and they would approve them? Or
we took plans to her and her board. And we explained the design, that sort of thing, to the board.
And if they had problems or questions?
Yeah, they would tell us and we would modify. But she was, she needed to be with somebody who respected her for what she was doing, and we did. She was a great lady for the education of Charlotte. Great lady.
What was it like working with A.G. Odell? With an architect with such a big name. And
he was, in many ways, considered a tyrant. He demanded good work, he demanded dedication to the job you were on, and he demanded that you investigate alternatives for everything in the project. I remember when we were doing the Coliseum and Auditorium, I was working on the Ovens Auditorium lobby. And behind the ticket booths, there was a circle. And there were restrooms on the ground floor in that circle. The outside of the restrooms were, I think it was walnut wood, and I planted little 2x2s with a V cut in the back of them on the wall, and made a circle with the circumference of the center core. And I had gone and detailed it, and it was almost finished. And he came out and said, "What'd you try otherwise?" I like this design. It details well, and this is the way I think it should look. He said, "I want to see some other designs." Walked away. He was one, and I criticized him to his face one time for not getting in and looking at the designs as they were developing earlier. Because if he waited too long, it wasn't a matter of fixing one little sheet. It could be a matter of fixing 16 sheets, which was expensive to us. So I don't think I ever got him to really do it. But,
So he would come in at the end of your planning.
yeah. And,
He wouldn't
and
have
critique it.
he wouldn't have checkpoints. He would just come in when you were done.
He would come in when he wanted to. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. So he would.
Did he have a pretty big personality?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a big personality. And he became president of AIA and all that sort of stuff.
Well, did other people, I don't know what it's like to work at an architecture firm, but would people working there, did they think like him, or did y'all have to do plans like he would want them? I mean, how...
Well, sometimes he would do a sort of a sketch of what he was thinking about this whole thing, this complex, to be. And it would be a very basic thing. And he'd expect the employees to develop it. And then, if he liked what was being developed, we'd go forward. If he didn't like it, we'd turn around and start over. So he was very much a design-oriented architect. And he wanted something that worked, was efficient, did what the owners wanted it to do, served their purpose completely. But he wanted a piece of art. Every building should have a little piece of art, he said, no matter how cheap it is. and that's the way he thought.
So that's what y'all did.
Oh yeah.
So he would plant the seed and y'all would kind of water it along. And...
Oh yeah. We were not complete dummies, but sometimes he'd make you feel like you were. But he was, I respected him. I always did. But I had an opinion, and if I had one, I'd give it to him, whether he liked it or not.
When you were working on the Charlotte College buildings, did you have to work with the Board of Higher Education for plans?
Oh, yeah. They, the state group in Raleigh, yeah, they were involved in all schoolwork, primary, secondary, higher education.
Were there ever any major conflicts with, concerning them?
Well, they had, excuse me, they had a set of guidelines, and you had to incorporate their guidelines in your building design. And sometimes you could sit down with them and go through a specific part of the design that didn't work with their guidelines, and you could convince them that what you did was better than their guideline, and they'd cooperate in that respect. But they were hard-nosed about the fundamentals and the basics. They controlled a lot of what the materials would be, that sort of thing. So they, in a sense, they controlled the price to a degree.
Was there ever any time when the college, the board, or Bonnie Cone were unhappy or wanted something that wasn't happening, wanted something different?
Well, there was occasionally a time when she was wanting more building than her budget would afford. And she had to be reminded of the lecture she gave us that we could not exceed the budget. And she if you showed her why, she was okay. She was willing to bend to uphold her own rules. But she was an interesting lady. Personalities are wonderful things in some cases and not so wonderful in others. But I liked her. She was good.
The material selection then was sort of enforced by that higher board of education.
Yeah.
That's how you had to...
They had standards that you had to sort of go by.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing I always liked about those buildings were the windows. They really interest me because they look so different than any other classroom I'd ever been in, the windows, the way they were. And I've heard these stories from teachers that have worked there saying, well, it was real frustrating because we had to have a key to open those windows. And sometimes it was real frustrating because you just wanted to open the window.
But we didn't want the windows opened because it messed up the air conditioning if they were open. So we talked the board into locking the windows for their own sake, because otherwise the operational cost of the buildings would go out the window. Literally, go out the window. All that air-conditioned air was going out the window and requiring more. So, yeah, we locked the windows. We've had teachers in not only at Charlotte College, but in grammar schools and high schools. Everybody's got their own body temperature, and some of the teachers in some of the schools were always too hot or too cold. So we'd go in and put a thermostat in their room that was connected to nothing, but we'd set it on the temperature they wanted, they thought it ought to be, and they were just happy as they could be. Yeah, psychological. But the thermostats were dummies. They just were not connected to anything.
Well, what about the contractors? Somebody, I think it was Ken Sanford, said that R.T. Dooley was one of the groups. Is there anyone I should talk to, do you think, from them that could, as far as the construction of the buildings?
R.T. Dooley.
Yeah.
He used to call me Adolf Hitler. And if you see him or go see him, tell him that Adolf Hitler sent you, and I'm sure he'll remember who that is.
Why would he call you that?
Because I was very demanding on how the construction was to be built, and he was the contractor that was set on speed, get it done. And he was good at it, and he was a good contractor once he understood that if he didn't do it right, he had to do it again. But he was a very good contractor. I know his firm still exists. His son's
Thomas, I think, might be his son.
I think he's got 2 sons that work in the place. But yeah, he could, and he's a great guy. He was an official in football. Not well. At one time, he was official in high school football, and then he went to college, and then professional.
Oh, like a referee.
Yeah, he was a referee in professional football. And he was in the CIA in World War II. But anyway.
He's done a lot of different things.
Yeah. But he's a very knowledgeable contractor. You don't need to tell him I said that.
Tell him Adolf Hitler says.
Yeah.
How often would you go out there and check out, look into it?
Usually
you had checkpoints.
once or twice a week.
And you just walk around the whole building?
Go through the whole building, see what's going on, what progress is being made. Does it match the detail? That kind of thing.
Did you go to any type of grand opening once the buildings were completed? Did they have anything like that?
In some instances they did, and some they didn't. I think I went to one or two, but I don't remember which ones.
Do you know why? I've heard some stories about it being similar to St. Andrews, and that there were certain.
I don't think it's similar to St. Andrews. When we were principally involved at Charlotte College, it was a motorized campus, no dormitories, and St. Andrews always had dormitories, and it was a different kind of a system. This property, I think I'm remembering correctly, this property was a gift to Charlotte College from somebody, and I can't remember who. But it's the largest campus in terms of acreage in the university system, or at the time was. May not be now, because campuses like NC State have that original campus, and then they have another campus. Actually, I think they have 2 more campuses. And of course, Charlotte College, UNC Charlotte, now has downtown campus, as does Wake Forest, a few of the other schools. So everything changes. But it was there was no public transportation from the downtown area to the university's area campus, and they really didn't have the funds to do dormitories initially. And that only came after it became a part of the university.
Yeah, and I think somebody told me, or I read it, that there was a certain amount of acreage that she had to obtain before she could do that. And that was the best spot to do it in, was out there. And people always say, well, why is it so far away? It's all the way out there. But she also had in mind, well, people were coming from Kannapolis, they were coming from all over to go to school.
Yeah.
And they needed to be able to.
It was a sort of a regional campus. It really was. So, and it was that campus location was sort of central to Concord, Kannapolis, Albemarle, Mount Pleasant, Gastonia, a lot of places. So, I think strategically that was a good place for the campus because it had so much land.
Room to grow.
Room to grow. Chapel Hill is land bound. So are a lot of the other campuses becoming land bound.
How would you describe, from an architect's perspective, that campus? How did it look? What was the way that it looked as far as design?
The basic master plan was based on the student activity that was going to take place on the campus and the circulation they needed to have between one building and another type of building, and so on. So the layout was kind of dictated by its original concept of being a motorized campus. And there were no on-site services either, certainly in the beginning. I don't know whether they have any now or not.
They have like a health center, but...
Do they have buses, campus buses?
It's through CATS, but they do have buses that run now.
Do they?
They call it the Gold Rush. It's a little trolley thing.
Okay.
Goes through campus.
Well, they got those downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's through CATS.
Okay.
So it's nothing specific to the school, but they have some type of... And they've gotten the buses now to where they'll run out there. They'll go from wherever you want to go from to take you out there.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, let's see. What else I've talked about? Were there any other people you remember from the school that you worked closely with?
Ken Batchelor. He was the accountant at the time. I remember him because we worked with him. There were some other members of the campus staff that we occasionally had to deal with and get their input in to what should be in the building, that kind of thing. But I don't remember the names.
Mm-hmm. Were you the principal? Well, he, I guess, would have been the principal architect. Odell was for this.
He was the principal architect for everything.
But you drafted the plans.
Well, some of them. Nobody drafted the plans for any building. Multiple people were involved in developing a project. It may start out with one concept designer. It would grow into two, and as it progressed and things became focused, you could add more people, and you did. It's the only way you could get a building done. You had to have people doing specific jobs, and that's the way architecture is. It's also not a very lucrative profession. So you want to think about whether you want to be an architect or not.
And so much of it, I would think, depends on the climate, the economic climate.
Very much.
Because if people don't have money to do things,
you don't have architects.
Then you don't need to build anything.
That's right.
Yeah.
There a lot of firms gone out of business in this situation we're in right now.
When you were, I know J&P's, they were pretty big at the same time.
They were our biggest competitor, and they had a good firm. Norman, I knew Norman, and I knew Mr. Pease Sr. I'm trying to remember if he made 100 or not. But I know when he was in his 90s, he went to the office every day. I asked Norman one time when he was in his 70s, when he was going to retire. Norman said, "Retire?" He said, "How the hell can I retire? My father still comes to the office every day. I can't retire." So, and he was, I don't know how old he was when he retired, but he's passed on now. As his father did.
I met him one time, and he was so funny. He had such a sense of humor.
He did.
Joke.
Yeah, he was a nice guy. Very nice guy. There are some nice architects.
Well, that's one good thing, I guess, about you're in good company.
Yeah.
What about Murray Wisnett? Did he have a firm?
He had a firm. Yeah.
As I know, he did Rowe. Later on, he did the Rowe Arts Building at UNCC.
Yeah, I don't. I knew Murray, but not real well. But he was a good architect too.
What were, that you remember, that come to mind, your responsibilities overseeing this project with Charlotte College?
Well, for the most part, at Charlotte College, I was involved in the construction. We had, in the firm, we had a design department, a construction document department, and a construction administration department. And for a number of years, I was the head of the construction administration department. And then Odell decided to move me to the construction documents division and take the head of that and put him in construction administration. And so, which wasn't a bad idea, really, because as the head of the construction department, I was familiar with all the problems that came up in construction. And Odell's theory was that because of that experience, I could help get rid of those problems in the design phase of the documents and not have to contend with them in construction, which I did drastically try to do. I was partially successful, but not totally. But anyway, I've done a lot of stuff. I guess the last 15 years of my career there, I was the risk manager, claims manager, insurance and legal consultant with our insurance department, and dealt with claims and all that crap, which was ridiculous.
Did you have to take classes to do that, or you just started doing it? It seems so different.
Well, I dealt with it quite a bit in the construction phase. If contractors wanted to make a claim, they'd make a claim, and I had to deal with it. So I learned a lot there. I read a lot of books on law. I was self-educated. One time I even had a lawyer offer me a job. I didn't take it, but I don't like lawyers. But I learned a lot that sometimes I could beat them at their own game. And that was very definitely an attaboy for me, personally. But not every time.
So you went and read, and you were self-taught about it. You knew how to do it.
And I had been in court with our attorneys a number of times, so I knew what was going on.
Well, I think that's all I have. That's all I have for now.
All you have for now?
All I have for now.
Okay.
So this project for y'all went on probably, 4 or 5 years?
Oh, more than that. I'm sorry I don't have that.
Well, it would have started.
In my
it would have
mind.
started about 59, and then because they moved out there in 58 to that new site, and then started in 59, and then some of those buildings were built in 67, so it would have been pretty ongoing.
It was ongoing, and we've done a few projects out there since they became a part of the university. We did their gymnasium.
About gymnasium.
The on state-funded projects, a coliseum you have to call a gymnasium. To get funded, you can't get a coliseum funded by a university. So where you have your basketball, that building was a gymnasium on the records. We did the administration building. And annexed to the library building, science building. Gosh, I can't remember.
The administration building.
And the student union building did that.
Yeah. How do you think it's changed since it became part of this? What did it enable them to do after they were part of the system as far as building was concerned?
Oh, they got a lot more building money after it became a part of the university than they got before. And it became, potentially, it had the best growth potential and need for growth of any university in the system. Charlotte was the biggest city in the surrounding areas, as you mentioned before. There was just a great volume of students that needed to be educated. And having that one more or less local to the general area, the potential for growth was great, and it did grow big time. Still growing. And now they're even going to have football.
I know it.
I'm glad for that.
Oh, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. It'll be good for the students.
Mm-hmm. When it started out, I found this interesting. I didn't know this. When it started out at the center, when it was at Central High School still, just in that little building, Bonnie Cone had put a football team together. And they called themselves Bonnie's Boys.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. They had it, but it cost too much, and so they had to cut it. But she had, because there were all these rumors going around that, oh, well, Bonnie Cone never wanted a football team, that's why we don't have one. But in some of that research I did about the center, they'd have one. It was only for like 2 years. It wasn't anything, that lasted, but they did have, there's a picture I saw, came across a picture. But,
well, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
So now we're back to having a football team again.
Great. If you are planning to go back to Odell's office, why don't you get a description of these brochures? I know they have them there. And Richard Morton, who I know, this one is the 50th anniversary book.